3 tools, 1 pipeline. Watercolor rendering that would have taken your team days now only take a fraction of the time. So BIM handles the model, while real-time rendering engines like Unreal Engine handles the site context for camera-ready 3D views with very little setup. You only have to screenshot the angle that you want once you put the model in place and then take it to Gemini Nano Banana Pro, and the AI does the rest. The output is a client-ready rendering presentation with warmth renderings that actually evoke emotions rather than a dull 3D massing view of a project. I have tested this in real production, not a demo, and I know this process works. Hey, I'm Daniel Loza. I'm the founder of Gaia Academy, Generative AI for Architects Academy, and the vision is to become the definitive AI education and transformation platform for the architecture industry. So if you're an architect or designer and want to learn about AI and how to utilize it for your industry, make sure to join our community where you will have access to all the resources, workflows, templates, and courses dedicated specifically for architects like you. So make sure to join. The link is in the description below. And now we're going to jump to a full breakdown on how this workflow gets done. I'm going to just kind of go really quick through the 3D model and the Unreal Engine model so you guys can kind of see what was my workflow. There's a big comparison between doing a rendering and doing AI for design ideation. And I know that sometimes you can do a hybrid. So what you can see in my screen right now is a mixture between the Unreal Engine and the ArchiCAD model. So the first step here is that we're gonna go here and I'm gonna show you just really brief what's the level of detail, the LOD, and LOD stands for level of detail. What's the level of detail that I put into these models before I was able to get the renderings that I'll show you here at the beginning of the video. So the first thing is to kind of get a level of detail where you wanna, because you're doing a rendering, you wanna make sure that you at least give the openings to the AI. It can still be a wide model. You don't have to be thinking about materials or any sort of like weird detail. The only thing you really need to think about is the overall shape of the building. Think about it as a mass model, but you still have to give the direction of where more or less the doors and the windows are going to be, because in that way the AI can read the openings, right, of where the lighting is going to come through and just change those materials. There's nothing really here that it's super high to super difficult to model. Everything here is just generic walls. If you come here, all these are standard windows and doors that you will find in a Revit or ArchiCAD library. These one here are very standard stairs. As you see, like the stairs are very standard, right? And then from there, I just kind of gave the AI a little bit of the description of where are the cars. That's kind of what I'm thinking, like, okay, I'm going to put these in the 3D model. So then later on, whenever I do the rendering, the Nano Banana is at least going to know where it's supposed to be, where there's supposed to be cars, because in that way, it's shown like it's actually parking. Another thing that I did that in hindsight, I should have added was the columns here, right? I added those later in Unreal Engine, but looking in hindsight, adding the columns here would have been just easier and better just for the model in general. The only pro tip I recommend is that later on in the rendering, if you want to change the material, for instance, in my case, I wanted to make sure that whenever I'm doing the rendering for aerial, I can showcase that I have a lot of grass and landscape and everything like that. So I decided to change the color of this material here at the top so I can have control on that material. Just because when you go to a real-time rendering engine, sometimes it will divide things by layer or by materials. So what I don't want is, like, if I, for whatever reason, I decide to change the material to grass and it's a wide model, it will change the material to all the buildings too. So I want to isolate that material to be grass. In that way, whenever I change the material or just decide to keep like that, it just remains different and people can see that that's clearly landscape or grass, right? So, or foliage. So with that being said, that's the first step. So it's kind of getting a model that has windows, doors, and the overall shape of the building, right? Then from there, you will move to real-time rendering engine, and that you can use Enscape, you can use D5 Render, you can use Lumion, you can use Unreal Engine. The reason why I use Unreal Engine for this particular project was because we wanted to put these on the site. And for me to get the Cesium, the Google Maps library, and I'm going to show you here, you see how these is like Google Maps right here. This is like the mesh of Google Maps. So I had something called Cesium, right? I don't know if you can see it there, but I have this thing called cesium, which brings all the Google Maps, let's say, mesh into Unreal Engine. So I can go all the way to Spain and I still have maps. And it's a very powerful tool. And I know there's a way to just put it directly in Google Maps. The best thing about this form of working is that when you bring it to Unreal Engine, now you also have that Unreal rendering capabilities, or you'll be able to do post-production, adjust the light, adjust materials, and all those things. But if you put it on Google Maps, that's it. You can just place the building and that's it. Whereas here, you can do a little bit more post-production and renderings. You can utilize like something like this also in D5 Render. If you go to the Teams license, which I don't have, but if you have a Teams license, you can bring also the mesh into D5. And I think you can even do the Gaussian splatting, which is great because it will enhance the mesh. And also you can do, not that in Enscape, but Chaos has also a different real-time rendering engine that can use that. You can potentially do this. I don't know the name of it, but in the description below, I will put the link of the video of how to bring the cesium mesh into Unreal Engine. So if you are interested in knowing how to bring your 3D model, whether it's Revit or ArchiCAD or whatever it is that you have, or a SketchUp or anything, into Unreal Engine and do something like this, make sure to check in the description below. Also, the last thing, so normally a lot of the times when you bring your 3D model in, you will bring it through something called Datasmith, right? And it's an easy way to import your files directly. It comes down to how updated is your Unreal Engine. So you have the latest Unreal Engine, generally speaking, is going to work with the latest files of Revit and ArchiCAD. In my case, because I don't have the latest Unreal Engine, I was not able to link with the ArchiCAD 29 directly. So another way to import the files, whether it's you're in Revit or ArchiCAD, I would suggest you to come here, File, Save As, and then you would just import these as a FBX. So you just say FBX, you say Save. Here, what I would recommend you is to just, it's fine. Everything here is fine. I mean, you just export colors and transparency only. Yeah, that's fine. Embed texture in FBX. That's great too. And I would just keep it like that. I just keep it as like how it comes. And then I just say, okay. And it will save a FBX file in there. Once you are here, the only thing you really need to do in Unreal Engine, and again, this is not supposed to be an ArchiCAD and Unreal Engine tutorial, but I'm just kind of giving you the overall. Once you are there, you will come here to content. You will probably create a new folder in here, right? Called, I call it C test, right? And the only thing you need to do is go and drag the file here. That's it. That's all you need to do. And so in my case, you see how I have the file here. And so when you drag the file, it will come like that. So it will bring all the materials, but it also will bring the model. So the only thing you do is just come here and drag the model in here. And depending on the scale of the model, sometimes you might have to adjust scale. So I was able to bring that as 100 scale. It came as a 1 scale. So the only thing I did is just put the lock here, put 100, and it automatically put it in scale. So that's something you might need to adjust. But once you have in there, you're able to get these things like looking like this way. And that's the second step, is just to bring that model in here. Another pro tip that I have is like there's something that it's called clipping void that you can utilize here on Unreal Engine. So the way it works is like it clips a specific site, so you don't see what's happening in that site, right? In that way, you can place your building on it. So I will put that also in the link below so you can know how to do those voiding clips. Again, this is not Unreal Engine tutorial, but I'm putting all the things that you need for you in the description below so you can go into those links. So now that you have that, then you bring that model in, and then the next step is to get the views in, right? Like now you can go ahead, you see how you can come here, you can, making sure that you're placing the model correctly and making sure you kind of get the views. Now, here's the problem that I was facing, right? Because whenever you're kind of getting a close-up of this model, you start realizing that even though this is great for scale and understanding the site, right, on here, it still looks a little crude, right? Like if you want to send this to a client, it looks a little crude. It's great for you to kind of get reference of the scale and how it will look and stuff like that. But you see how the trees and all these things look crude, right? Like everything looks very pixelated. And that's why you want to use Nano Banana Pro or any AI that can help you enhance this and stylize it, because we're still in that conceptual phase where things don't need to be too photorealistic. You can still soften these up a little bit. And that's one of the things that many architects were looking in the past years. They will kind of look at the 3D models and stuff, and you're like, how can I soften this so it actually looks more warmer to the client? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to take these images. We're going to take 4 images here. And then we're going to stylize these renderings for us to kind of have a real conversation with a client, but with a nice watercolor rendering. So with that being said, we're going to move to the next step, and I'm going to create the images and I'm going to show you what I came out with. If you want to go deeper into AI in architecture, make sure to join our community, Gaia Academy. I will put the link in the description below. So this is the community where architects want to learn generative AI, and we want to not just educate ourselves with AI, but we also want to get resources, workflows, templates, and at the same time, we want to network with people that are interested in AI within architecture. So make sure to join in the description below. And with that being said, let's jump in. Okay. So here's the most exciting part. So now that we already done the images, right? So as you can see here, these are the 4 images that I picked. And I think I already created a duplicate of this one, but these are the images that were created. And you can see the results compared whenever you get the help of AI here. You can see the difference between you presenting a client something like this, right, that you created in a 3D model, compared to something like that you help enhance with AI, and it's stylized and it has that, let's call it, what I would say, like human element to it, that it's a lot warmer. And one of them, in the sense of that one there, the one that is created with only 3D modeling and real-time engine, it brings the model, like it's fine, like you're able to see what's going on. But the other one, the one created with AI, is actually warmer. It actually feels softer to the eye. It's actually something that you want to engage in a conversation. It actually brings emotions to it. And that's what you want to bring in that conceptual design. And that's why a lot of architects were craving for a long time. It was just that people that didn't have time to draw, it was very hard to put this in Photoshop, and it will take a long time if you wanted to Photoshop this. Whereas in these ones here, I was able to get 4 different images within an hour, right? Or less, right? Once you already have the 3D views in there, right? So this is what you can get as a result. So now, like, look a little bit about these 4 images here, and you can see how it keeps the same structure. It doesn't change anything. You see how it preserves the trees. It preserves even the lines of the parking lot. Even the little track in here has the same track and all that. And the great thing is, like, once you have the image, you can bring it to Photoshop and do a 10-minute post-production and make it look even better. So for instance, on all these, I went to Photoshop and maybe I did a little bit of that vintage look here. I cropped that a little bit. I adjusted the colors just a smidge and things like that. Now that's the power of AI on this. So with that being said, now I'm going to touch base a little bit on giving you a resource on how to use this and you can copy this process and make it your own here. So this resource is going to be in the description link down below. So if you want to be part of the community, which we call Gaia Academy, with this generative AI for architects, make sure to go to the description below, join the community. That's where you will find a lot of the resources, the templates that you can get from there and utilize them for your architecture firm or for your workflows. At the same time, you will see a mastery course on Claude that you can utilize that to learn about AI, but also utilize Claude for your architectural workflows too. At the same time, you'll find a community in there. You'll have access to more resources and just, more information to learn about AI. So I really hope you can join the community. Otherwise, you'll still find a description and a link down below to the Google Docs document where you will just be able to get this resource available to you. So with that being said, that will be the link there to the community. And the first step you want to do is to insert an image. So as we mentioned before, the first step will be to create an image that you've done in a 3D view. It doesn't have to be amazing. It could just be a screenshot. Like this is a screenshot. It's not a rendering 4K, nothing like that. It's a screenshot. So all these are screenshots, really. So once you have a screenshot from the 3D model and the environment that you want, you bring that to Gemini, and I'm gonna show you here. That's the process here. So I'm using Gemini for this because Gemini has the Nano Banana Pro version. So here's a quick distinction here. If you use the Flash mode, it will automatically set up for Nano Banana 2, which is good rendering, but you want to make sure that you get the best rendering, and that's Nano Banana Pro. So you have to make sure you go to the Pro version of this, right? If you have a Gmail account, you most likely have access to Gemini. So most of the people have a Gemini account. So I would really recommend you to create a Gemini account if you have a Gmail, because most likely you have access to Gemini for free and you're able to create these images for free if you have a Gmail account. You just have to go and create an account and give your Gmail information. Otherwise, you can always utilize tools like Gemini. You don't want to pay that much money. You want to go to Google Studio AI, where you can pay per image, and sometimes it costs cents. So you can get a lot of images for maybe $5, $10 a month, or depending how many images you want to create. You can go to Google Studio AI, go there and you like create an API and they will charge you per image or something like that. Otherwise, there's other resources. Almost everything out there has a Nano Banana Pro engine, like OpenArt, Artlist, Korea AI. So many of those you can find those. But I'm using Gemini just because that's probably where most of the people are going to utilize Nano Banana Pro. So with that being said, we're in Gemini. We're in the new chat version. You see how I uploaded this image here. And from this image, what I did, I just copy paste that prompt from the resource I gave you. So why it works well is because I try to keep it as generic as possible, because I want the majority of you guys to be able to utilize this prompt for your project. So make sure to screenshot this or download it from your resources. Make sure to test it again. Most likely it's going to work. If for whatever reason you have a project that is not working, it's probably just something that you have to adjust in the description so it follows more your project. So with that being said, once you have that, it will render it, and you see how it really is improving it. I'm gonna show you a pro tip right now that you can utilize. So now that you have that, the reason why this works so well is because it does have it gives the style right here. So you see how the first line you have is the style, right? You're also given very description of the style, a little bit of description of how you want the building to be colored along with the environment. Then you kind of give expertise, and at the same time you want to make sure you add this part in there, making sure that it's going to keep 100% of the geometric accuracy in there. That's very important. That's why you want to add it at the end, because normally you want to put the most important information at the top and at the bottom. So that's kind of, you want to put the style at the top and the keep accuracy at the bottom. So, okay, now that you've seen this, now we're going to go to the pro tip here. So the first step, as I mentioned, is kind of create that image here. So that's the first step. The second step now is to create a core description. Before you copy paste the description I gave you, you go and create a core description of that. So what does it mean, right? So create a core description here. Oh, I think I already deleted that. So what you want to do is come here to chats and upload your image here. So I'm going to upload this image. So you want to upload that image, and then you want to come back here to the resource and copy this. Describe the architecture in this image under, these 500 characters. Focus strictly on physical, massing, and materials. And I'm hearing you say and you can put anything else that might be relatable to your project. So you have a curvilinear shape of a building or something like that. You can always add that. For me, I don't want to do anything specifically. I'm going to say and materials. So go there, I copy here, and then I just copy paste that and I do this. So when it does that, it's going to give you a description of your building. So it's even more descriptive. So once you have that description, I would recommend you to add that description in here. So you see, that's the description I got. So I would recommend you to add the description in this line here, between after the style and before the building facade remains, right? So in there. So that's the description that was added. And from there, what you want to do is just give it a quick read, make sure that nothing is conflicting. And once you have that in there, you copy paste that. So you go and copy paste that. I'm going to show you what I got. So that's the new description. You see how you added that new description? And then you do the watercolor. Now, again, I will suggest to do this in the case if for whatever reason the first method is not working correctly, then you can do this in Nano Banana Pro, and then you can do that. Another pro tip I have for you is to always generate a few iterations just to make sure sometimes the model might not read correctly the first time. How you normally do this is by you going to the redo and then say try again. Now, in this case, it gave me very good results the first time. So the other renderings that I did, it did kind of the same thing. It actually had a description here at the bottom. But a lot of times you're going to see that the first try is not the best try. Maybe the second or the third or the fourth try is the best try. And that's pretty much the pro tip and how that's the complete workflow on how you create some stunning renderings, right? So you go from Revit or ArchiCAD, go like through a 3D model to a real-time engine. And you can potentially, depending on whether or not you want the environment, you can skip that whole middle process of the real-time engine all the way from 3D model directly to Nano Banana Pro, depending on what's the case that you want. In this case, we really wanted to show the whole background of where it was located in the city, because this is a real estate development. So in that case, that's why we really needed the buildings nearby and the context. But depending on where you are in your project, you might not need that, and you might just be able to bring the 3D views into there. So that's pretty much the whole workflow right there. Your 3D modeling tool builds it, a real engine frames it, but Nano Banana Pro is the real reason why the workflow exists, because that's where AI transforms a 3D screenshot into a warmth and evocative watercolor rendering. And this is without taking days, or not even hours, but sometimes even just minutes. And that is the shift. AI is not replacing your design process. AI is making your process and your product a lot better. It's helping you and assisting you with what you have in your mind to put it out there for your client or for the world to see. It's collapsing the production time between your model and your presentation. And that's why we built Guy Academy, where you will have the resources, the templates, and the workflows that give you these ideas of how to utilize AI into your design process. And the best thing is that it's dedicated for architects just like you. So make sure to check the description below where you will have access to the community. Otherwise, the resource on everything that we talked on this video is also in the description down below. So if you found this video helpful, the only thing I'm going to ask in exchange is that you please subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.